Good evening, United Baptist. This evening, we're going to look at love in a few different ways. We're going to talk about how to actually define love, the way the Bible does. Then we're going to talk about how can you actually see the absence of love and what that means. And then ultimately, too, we're going to point to the greatness of God's love. So we're going to try to move quickly, and I hope this will be a blessing. If you ever want to talk about love in any type of depth, you have to go to 1 Corinthians 13. It's in this passage where Paul so clearly outlines in a practical way what love is. I think too often we use the word without really knowing what it means. And God gives us what it means because He knows we need very practical examples. That way we can't kind of be squishy or about what love means and kind of define it the way we want, or give ourselves excuses for not showing love. And so in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, Paul defines it. Now, charity in the King James is really kind of the noun form of love. It's talking about the same thing. Charity in the King James is not really talking about giving money to charity, so to speak. It's all about love. So keep that in mind as we read. Listen close, it's very practical. Charity suffereth long. That means it's patient. And it is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself, and is not puffed up. It doth not behave itself unseemly. It seeketh not her own, is not easily provoked, thinketh no evil. It rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth. It beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Charity never faileth, but whether there be prophecies, they shall fail. Whether there be tongues, they shall cease. Whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But then that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know, even as also I am known. And now abideth faith, hope, charity, these three, but the greatest of these is charity. See, as you look at this passage, you see that love is an action. It's not just a feeling. I think that's how oftentimes in America we define love as a feeling, and so then maybe I'll do something. That's why people will fall out of love rather than stay in love, because it's all based on how we feel, and feelings change, right? But biblically, the Bible doesn't connect love to the feelings so much as it does to actions, decisions we make to show love. Verse 4, like I mentioned, it talks about patience. It talks about how it doesn't envy, how if you love someone, you're not puffing yourself up in front of them. It's not easily provoked. And then another part, love thinketh no evil. So often we allow ourselves to have negative thoughts about people, but a loving person doesn't do that. And I like this definition because as Christians, we're called to love one another. We're called to love our neighbors as ourselves. The royal command from Jesus is all about love. And I like these definitions here because really all of these are tied to when people don't show us love. So if it says charity suffereth long, or it's patient, why does love have to be patient? Because people are making us lose our patience, right? So all of these different definitions show forth the idea that love is clearly seen when people aren't showing us love. People can say, I love other Christians, but what happens when a Christian doesn't show love to you? Do you continue to show love? Because that's what a loving person does. 1 Peter 4:8 says, above all things have fervent charity among yourselves, for charity shall cover the multitude of sins. Again, it's just saying love there. Love covers a multitude of sins. It doesn't hold things against people. It doesn't keep our hearts towards bitterness. Instead, it seeks the best in a person. And as Christians, we're called to even love our enemies. It's very, very powerful. And a man wrote something that was very, very good. He did the opposite of 1 Corinthians 13. Let me read this for you. It says, hate is impatient and unkind. Hate is jealous and proud. Hate is arrogant and rude. Hate always insists on doing things its way. Hate gets upset over every offense and keeps a close record of every wrong. Hate does not delight to see good things, but rejoices when people mess up or get what's coming to them. Hate complains about anything, is cynical about everything, has no hope for anyone, and puts up with nothing. See, love is an active agent. And to not show love doesn't just mean, well, hey, I wasn't paying attention today. It means that we are unloving. And I would say this too, to withhold love from people is sin. It is sin. It's sin in God's eyes. And so it's the opposite of who God is. We are to look in our lives and look at people as targets of love. And one of the reasons we can do this is because God Himself is love. God Himself is love. You know, over in 1 John, we find some very powerful verses that speak about love. Speak about the love that God has for us. And of course, we know that all is based on the fact that Jesus came to die for us. And so we find in chapter number 3, verse 19, "And hereby we know that we are of the truth and shall assure our hearts before Him. For if our heart condemn us, God is greater than our heart and knoweth all things. Beloved, if our heart condemn us not, then we have confidence towards God. And whatsoever we ask, we receive of Him, because we keep His commandments and do those things that are pleasing in His sight. And this is His commandment, that we should believe on the name of the Son Jesus Christ and love one another as He gave us commandment. And he that keepeth His commandments dwelleth in Him, and He in him. And hereby we know that He abideth in us by the Spirit which He has given to us." Very, very powerful. And I love verse 21. It says, "Beloved, if our heart condemn us not, then have we confidence towards God." And then, of course, the verse before that, "For if our heart condemn us, God is greater than our heart and knoweth all things." You know, oftentimes we can question whether we're worthy of God's love. We can look at things we've done in the past or sins that we've committed that week and say, how can God really love me? A lot of times people that would say, I don't even love myself. How can God love me? And I love how it says there that even if our heart condemns us, God is greater than our heart. The point being that God's love is infinite and He invites people into a relationship with Him. That verse gives great encouragement to those that are insecure about themselves. And not only that, I think it points to the fact that we should take the love that God has for us and extend that to other people. To me, this is a reminder that as Christians, we have to give ourselves regularly. You don't continue to be a loving person just because you showed love last week. You have to continue to make that decision over and over each day, because love is a choice. It doesn't just happen. We have to choose to show love to those that don't show love to us. It's difficult. We have to protect our hearts. But we ultimately do this because we are conduits of the love of God. So my challenge for you this evening, I want you to think of people that you're struggling with to show love to right now, and think about how you can show them love. Maybe it's somebody at work that gets on your nerves. Maybe it's a family member. But think through ways that you can show love to those that don't show love to you. And the reason we do this is because we love Him because He first loved us. We show love first because God showed His love to us first. I hope this has been encouragement this evening. God bless.